First time joining, glad to have you. Glad to have all the first timers. You're going to have a good time and positive moments with Andrew and Don. So Andrew, if I do my countdown, I could bring you in?
Sounds good.
So there are a lot of things that we thought that we know, but we found out that we knew. Okay, that was just a way of saying I'm turning you over to Andrew.
Well, a wonderful good afternoon to everybody in Trinidad and Tobago, England, Belgium, wherever you are in the world. It is the 1st of July. The time is flying, but what's important to realize that the world does not stop. We continuously evolve every second, every day, every week, all year long. For the rest of your life, you will continue to evolve. This show is called Positive Moments with Andrew and Don. We're talking about a very serious topic today, very powerful topic today, a lot to learn. Trinidad and Tobago has had a very hard week this week so far. It's been very negative, very, very tough. But where there is negativity, there is positivity. Every single moment of life. That is why we created this show. And for as long as this show exists, it will remain that. To show everybody that no matter how hard the situation is, no matter what you're going through, there is positivity to be found. There are lessons to be learned. And we can grow no matter how hard we've been hit down. So, as we get ready for a very powerful topic and a lot to learn, I myself can say that being a host of this show with my brother Don, I have learned a tremendous amount, not only from the speakers, but from the audience, every single one of you all who've come through this program with us. So I thank you. And I don't thank you for attending. I thank you for coming into a positive environment and spending time in an area, because the more we spend time around positivity, is the more it's going to radiate in your life. You're going to become more positive. You've now taken an hour out of your day. Every time you've come here, you're taking it into the world, in Trinidad and Tobago, wherever you are, and spreading that love and happiness. So thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you to all of you. Thank you to the Republic Bank for providing us with this amazing platform to do only one thing: spread love and positivity. So Don, over to you.
Thank you very much, Andrew. And I echo what you said, because we are also learning. None of us have arrived. None of us have arrived. And this is actually a wonderful opportunity to learn, a wonderful environment, a very positive environment. Every time we talk about positive moments with Andrew and Don, it is indeed a positive time. And when we make this moment as positive as it can be, it allows for a better moment. Today's topic is a very serious topic. And sadly, in our society, and I know in many societies around the world, many are faced with child abuse and domestic violence. It continues to plague our society, but we are not just here to talk about the problem. We are here to talk about solutions. As you say, we continue to learn, and we have to get advice from a lot of people who have actually either walked through it or who have helped others walk through it. And the latter, we are so glad today. Let me just say, she's the former head of the Children's Authority, but her capacity here today is to talk about her first-hand experience with child abuse and domestic violence. So audience, I want you to welcome me. You can type, I know some of you have actually typed some questions already. Andrew and I certainly welcome you, and along with the entire audience, welcomes Safiya Noel. Safiya Noel to help us know well, right? What is domestic violence and child abuse? So welcome, Safiya. Glad to have you on Positive Moments with Andrew and Don.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much, guys, for the invitation. It's a privilege and a pleasure to be here. So welcome to all your attendees. Happy to spend this time with you guys. And, interestingly, and Andrew said it, we are talking about positive moments with Andrew and Don. And here it is, we have to talk about something that is not so positive, but there's always, life is such that it can be positive depending on how you look at it, all right? And experiences do not happen in a vacuum. You know, experiences, even the not so good ones, are for a reason, right? So I will jump right in if that's okay. So we can start to treat with two topics, right? Right, so what I would want to start with is laying out a little bit about what is child abuse and what is domestic violence so that we can understand what it is we're dealing with. We can clarify some information and then set the right context. So I would start with child abuse. So when starting with child abuse, I always start with who is a child? A child is anyone under the age of 18. 364 days before that midnight hits, you are a child. All right, and that is very, very important for us to understand. And that's at least in Trinidad and Tobago. In other countries, they have other ages, some 16, but in Trinidad and Tobago, it is the age of 18. Anyone under that age, it's a child. So because of that, whatever happens to that person under the age of 18, when it comes to abuse, is termed child abuse. So what child abuse really is, and we can look at it from the standpoint of child abuse and maltreatment. And this occurs when a child is harmed, and that harm could be potential or actual harm to a child's health, survival, development, or dignity. All right, and you see that part, dignity, is sometimes where we miss it in terms of our culture. All right, and that harm, potential or actual, can be physical, emotional, sexual, it can be negligence, commercial, exploitation. It's far and wide. Abuse is not just what we think is sexual abuse and physical abuse. It's far wider than that. And the interesting thing is that, perhaps the sad thing, children are abused by people who they know, people that they love, people that they trust. They are not abused by strangers. In fact, when I was at the Children's Authority, the data that came in suggested that more than half of the abuse was inflicted by biological parents, mothers leading, followed by fathers, then by step-parents. So when you put that category together, we got like about over 60% of the alleged perpetrators were biological parents. So to think if someone loves a child that they will not abuse the child, that's incorrect. People can love somebody and still abuse them because it is broken people that abuse, all right? Broken people love too, but it's just the way they express themselves, very abusive, all right? So don't mix the two. And what you would find, because the love exists, that is why you find even in domestic violence situations, it's very difficult for the partner to leave because love truly exists in the relationship. The child loves the parent loves the child, although there is abuse. So don't think that love doesn't exist. It's not the right way to love, but for that person, it is love, right? And just to go a little deeper, if you were to pull out, let's say, for example, the more obvious ones, like sexual abuse and physical abuse, let's look at some other types of abuses that are normally justified, or we think it's okay. So let me give you an example. And all the examples I will give you today are real life examples, things I have interacted with and seen firsthand. So a child is taking too long to get ready to go to school, being very difficult in the morning. The child was about 10 years old, and because he was so difficult, the mother was so tired, she picked him up and carried him to school exactly how he was, in his underwear. Took that child, drove the child all the way down to school, made him get out of the car on the school compound in his underwear, all right? And for that parent was tired. The child hardened, the child doesn't listen, the child is being difficult, all right? But if we stop to think, how would you feel if you were forced to go to work or to school in your underwear and your colleagues and your peers see you? How would you feel? What would be your thoughts? And sometimes the reason why adults miss child abuse is because sometimes they don't think how they would have felt if they were in this situation. Children feel the same way. They feel the same way because they are human. They will feel embarrassed, humiliated, hurt. They will feel betrayed. The person who is supposed to protect them is now exposing them. How does that child fare the next day in school? What will happen with his peers? Do we think about all of those things when we make decisions as adults, right? So sometimes we do things as adults and we think that it's not abuse. I'm just responding to a difficult child, or I'm just responding to a child that is hard, no, not listening. But really what in fact we are doing, the child triggered something in us. Our own challenges, our own issues, our own hurts and frustrations, and then we respond out of that. And then we inflict harm when that was not the intention. All right? So when it comes to, and the reason why I'm sharing all of this is because I want us to start to reevaluate who we are and how we parent, how we interact. Because if it is we are going to make this country and this world a better place, which is what we're about, it has to start with us. We can definitely change us. We may not be able to change anybody else, but I can change me. That I can guarantee you. You know, and if it is we can at least commit to each other, to at least reevaluate ourselves and see how best we can do, let me tell you, we can make a big impact. I also do a lot of coaching on leadership, and I'll tell you this about leadership. There is some research that says that even the most introverted person influences at least 10,000 people in their lifetime. And for extroverted persons, it's as much as 80,000 persons. We can take stock of ourselves, take a hold of ourselves. Look how many people we can impact. Even if you think you're not an extrovert, even if you think you're not a socialite, there are at least 10,000 people you can impact before you leave this earth. All right? So it's important that, let me stop and think. You know, and I had the question that Nicola asked, which we'll get to, because I mean, all that is infused into my presentation, because we asked, I mean, I got licks growing up. I remember interviewing a lady, she came to work at she came for a job at the Children's Authority, and when we were asking a question about, what are your thoughts on discipline in Trinidad and Tobago? She said, listen, people too soft. You know, I know about getting a bucket in my head and I'm fine, look at me, I'm well. And so sometimes we judge how well we are about, based on our involvement in crime. I'm not involved in crime, I'm not a criminal, so I'm okay. But if it is we really look at our gauge in terms of relationships, how do we feel in terms of self-esteem? Where are we in terms of self-image? Where are we in terms of self-confidence? How do we interact with people? What about anger management, conflict resolution? How do we fare on those skills? Then we would recognize, we're not as well as we think we are. And it was because of some of those experiences. All right, so we want to start to change. We want to start to challenge a little bit. You know, what was done, what I saw, is that the norm? You know, do I want to repeat? You know, because, you know, we have to be spell breakers. You know, we shouldn't just do what was done to us. We need to deliberately choose to repeat the good things and to not repeat the bad ones. All right? So that's it for child abuse. Very, very simply, once a person is under 8 years, any harm, potential, or actual in any area of their life, even impacting their, so physical, their body, that's a given, but also their development and their dignity, very important. Do you know in the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, one of the child's rights is to have a name? To have a name, because why? It gives dignity, it gives identity, all right? Those things are rights, a right to be heard. Why is there a right to be heard? Because if you are going to make a decision concerning me, I should be involved. Do not think that they don't know. They do know. They may not be able to make the decision, but they certainly can contribute to it. All right? And I think that is important. So let me just define a little bit domestic violence, and then we go a little deeper into the topics. All right? So domestic violence, also called domestic abuse or intimate partner violence. All right? This is a pattern of behaviors used by one partner to maintain power and control over the other partner in a relationship. All right, and just like child abuse, it's not just about the kicks and the cuffs. It's broader. It's far broader than that. And there are female victims of domestic violence, and there are male victims of domestic violence when you understand the whole gamut of what domestic violence is. I mean, we have far more females, but do we? Because males hardly report. But so far, we are seeing far more female victims of domestic violence than male victims. So this domestic violence can show itself verbally, emotionally, financially, sexually, physically, all right? It is subtle. It can start off very subtle. And that is why it's able to grow into some of the things that we see. It doesn't start there. It starts with very subtle things, even during the dating period and the courtship period that we allow to slide. We see it, you know, but we think we can handle it, or we brush it off, and then it grows into something much worse. So I'm giving you real life examples. I recall dealing with one lady, actually she was a friend of mine, and her husband convinced her to leave her job and to come and work with him in his business. So she was happy to do so because his business was doing well, and she knew he needed the help. So she left her job. She had the job for 12 years, doing well, but she said, you know what, I'm going to build this business with my husband, and she was excited to do so. What her husband started to do was whenever he was upset with her, he would not pay her. So she would get no money. So even though she worked, he would not pay her salary. And this went on for months. She was unable to purchase basic care products that she needed. She would have to apologize and admit that she was wrong, even if she was wrong or not, in order to get paid. All right? And at which point she would only get part of her salary. And he would monitor her behavior to determine whether she deserved the rest of her salary. Now, what is that? That is financial abuse. That is domestic violence. That is a pattern of behavior specifically designed to control another person. Why would you do that? All right, that is financial abuse, and that is a type of domestic violence. So sometimes when we see things hit the news, that at that time it has full blown. But we know people in relationships. We might even be in relationships. I have been in a relationship already that had elements of domestic violence, and I wasn't aware. I didn't recognize. You know, I remember being very young, dating this guy, and we would end up into these heated arguments, you know, until one time he grabbed me and started to choke my neck, and I'm there fighting back, and then after we fought, you know, we came back, he apologized, and we moved on. Sometimes we do not recognize. We think it is normal. That's just the person's way of behaving. That's how he is, or that's how she does talk. But really, it is abuse that is being inflicted upon us, all right? And we want to empower ourselves, and we want to empower other people, because nobody deserves to be abused, all right? No. We are all people who are valued, we are valuable, and we deserve better, all right? I deserve better, you deserve better, all right? And so sometimes you have to make a decision, not always based on your heart, but based on your head, because your heart leads you down the wrong road sometimes. And when you need both to make decisions, when it comes to things like this, you will know. A child knows. Even if a child doesn't understand the full gamut of what child abuse is, a child knows when something awkward is happening. This isn't right. You feel it. Work with that. You know, I mean, not everybody believes in God. I mean, I do. And I would say God didn't put that in you for no reason. You know, there's intuition. There is something else that speaks to you. You don't always need to Google it to know that something is not right here. Work with that, because that may just save your life. All right? So it's important you trust your instinct. You're not crazy. You are not to blame. You are not overreacting. What you are doing is protecting your dignity. What you are doing is protecting your sanity. And you're supposed to. You're supposed to. All right, so I'll just give you another little story. So before I even went to the Children's Authority, I have loved working with young people. I just love them. In fact, I love working with teenagers. I think they're fantastic. I love that they're not the little kids that you have to be so gentle with your words and be very, age specific. You can be a little bit more adult in speaking with them, but I like their vibrancy. I like the way they're daring. They're almost on that cusp of adulthood. So they're thinking about their future, perhaps not. Or I really love dealing with teens. I find they're fantastic, males and females. And I had this experience almost 10 years ago. We went to, a team and I went to a Caribbean island, I don't want to mention the island, to do some work with some youth for a period of a week. And I was assigned to the girls ages 13 to 17. And there were about 50 of them, these fantastic young women. And it was either the first or the second day, I can't recall which day, but we were doing some rapport building exercises. And I remember asking everyone, okay, so tell me, when is your birthday and what career you wanted to pursue? And to my surprise, and I think even horror, more than half of the girls, so it's about 35 of them, they did not know when their birthday was. And I was stunned. You did not know when your birthday was? I mean, you don't know when your birthday is? I said, okay, so give me a month. When is your birth month? I don't know. How could you not know? And this is 13 to 17-year-olds I have. And besides knowing your date of birth, which is critical to know as a critical piece of information to have, what struck me is many of them never heard happy birthday. Many of them just lived life. They just existed. Nobody celebrated them, not even once. Nobody said to them, hey, you made an anniversary of another year of living. Congratulations. Some things we take for granted, some persons never heard. And that impacted me a lot. I wish I could have just packed all of them in my suitcase and bring them back to Trinidad with me. I could not believe it. And so what I did by the end of the week, we were having a birthday party for everyone, and everyone had gifts, and everyone had, and each person was told happy birthday and how you have made the world a better place just by being here. And you would be, and by the end of that week, so many of them, just their countenance was so different just by being exposed to some positivity. And that is what I want us to understand today. Even though child abuse and domestic violence, they are evils, but we can be that beacon of positivity to somebody else. And I want to encourage us to be that. Don't be scared. Don't think this is not my business, evil, see no evil. Don't do that. You may just be that smile that could cause them to not go and commit suicide. Because you know what? Somebody looked at them as if they were human at least once. You really don't know what is happening inside of persons. And so I want to encourage us, don't get weary. And I can tell you this, having spent time with the authority, Children's Authority, that is. So, the Children's Authority cases, and I can tell you my own experience that really impacted me. So there is vicarious trauma that occurs, right? Naturally, being in such an environment. And I remember when I first got to the authority and I saw how many cases of child abuse there was, racking up over 5,000 cases in a year. I stopped and I said, Trinidad and Tobago, is this you? Is this my beloved country? Is this you? So, being in around youth all the time, child abuse exists. You hear about it. But when you see them all coming in one place, like a repository, it hits you so differently. How many children, how many people were abused as children did not get help and grow to be abusers themselves. And so in order for this to change, we have to make an impact. We have to do something. We have to help. And you would understand even in domestic violence situations, many persons who grew up in a home where there was domestic violence, unfortunately, they end up marrying persons at times and end up in a domestic violence situation. Or if it's a male, sometimes he grows to inflict abuse on his partner. it's really, really sad. All right. But I want us to know that each person can make a difference. Each person can make a difference. I had the opportunity to make the difference in a child's life. And I remember that situation, and I will not share many details, but what I can say is when I was presented with the opportunity, when I was asked to consider caring for this child, I had so many things to consider. I had a child of my own that was younger. He was younger. I had to consider what persons might have said, because we are, as Trinidad and Tobago, and I know there are persons here from all over the world, but within this society, we can be hugely negative as a society. I had to study reputation risk for myself, the organization, so many things. But you know what it came down to? We have to walk the talk. We can't just talk the talk. We can't just say better society and not put our hands, not roll up our sleeves. And I was ready to do that. I was ready to, because I know I had the means, I had the capacity, I had the heart, I know I had it, I know I had the experience to really treat with this teenager, you know, and then we shy away from teenagers, you know. It's another experience popping into my head, and I'm always accused of over-talking, so I don't want to over-talk, but I had another experience popped into my head doing some work with a children's home. I mean, years ago, before I even came to the authority, this young girl, she was 13 at the time when I met her. She was prostituted since she was age 3. Who are your customers really? Who will come to do that? And she was prostituted by her mother and her grandmother. And the story went that the grandmother prostituted the mother, and the mother said, well, I survived, I'm fine. So she then prostituted her daughter. And if it is she did not want to go, she would be beaten. When she reached age 10, she couldn't take it anymore and she ran away. And she ended up on the streets for a bit, and then she ended up in this children's home. And there it is, I met her. I went to do some work with the children there, and it was around Christmas time, and we were just having a really nice time. But I started chatting with this teen. And you know what she said? She said, you know, I am so happy you guys came, happy for the gifts, happy for the, you know, the lime and the fun. She said, but you know what I really want for Christmas? I want a family. I want a family who would just accept me. She said, but I know nobody likes teenagers, they only like little children, so I doubt I would ever have a family. But you know, if I could, that's what I would want. That stayed with me. That stayed with me. And so when I had the opportunity to care for this child, he was 15, and he was deemed beyond control, or you know, those children who have difficult and challenging behaviors. But I recognize people respond to what happens to them. And I knew that I could have made a big difference in that child's life. And so I took the opportunity. Now, it has not been a bed of roses because of the child's history, because of his trauma. But let me tell you, to look into a child's eyes and know that you genuinely care, and they can see that care back, let me tell you something, that does something for the child. You don't want anything back. You don't want thanks. You don't want anything from them. And sometimes we go in there with even our own expectations that really mess up the whole situation. We expect them to be so thankful because you're giving them an opportunity. They don't know about that. They know about not being able to trust anybody. They know about people always wanting something from them. They don't know if it is you are taking them for whatever the reason you have. They are monitoring you. They are psyching you out. You know, and you have to allow them to do that. Our own biological children are sometimes ungrateful. So, you know, so we have to know that that's how children can be. But just allow the child to be. Give your love, give your guidance, give your support. You will be surprised what difference that child, what it makes in that child life. Now the child, he's now 18, I keep saying a child, he's over 18 now, you know, and he's moved on, and he would still call auntie, and he'd say, so, auntie, you know, because I now end up the person, the only real person he can call on to ask for anything, just like any other child crossing 18 who needs to go, mommy, I need this, daddy, I need this. I am that person for him. And I commit myself to be there for him until he's 30-something, 40-something, 50-something, he can have children. I commit myself for that long haul, because that's what you do when you have your own children. That's what I would want somebody to do for my child if I pass. I can do it for somebody else's, right? And so we have to kind of tell ourselves that we need to be there, we need to be present. Let me chat a little bit about the domestic violence, and then I would pause, and then we can take some questions and discuss a little further. So I want to say, when it comes to domestic violence, if you are in that situation, or if you know anyone that is in that situation, you first need to be able to recognize it, all right? Awareness is important. As I was giving you the example about me in an earlier relationship, I'm getting choked and I'm fighting, all of that, and I'm thinking that's normal. Not that I grew up in a home with violence, but I'm thinking that's just how he is. He gets very angry, it's in anything. So you have to recognize the example I gave you about the financial abuse. Your friend comes and tells you that, and you're like, girl, that's what you do for truth, and you move on. No, that is abuse. All right, so you have to first recognize it. You cannot treat with something that you don't recognize, all right? So, and trust your gut. If you feel unhappy, if you feel hurt, if you feel uncomfortable, if you recognize something, perhaps ask a question, do some research, Google it, call the domestic violence hotline, 800-SAVE. Everybody should know that number, 800-SAVE, our domestic violence hotline in Trinidad and Tobago. Ask the question, all right? Also, there's a tendency to self-blame. Don't self-blame. The issue is not with you. The issue is not with you. Regardless of what you did or didn't do, there is no justification for ill treatment. That person has an issue with their anger. That person has an issue with treating with issues. The issue is not yours, all right? And resorting to violence should never be an acceptable method for treating with challenges. Abuse should never be an acceptable method. So don't think, well, I would trigger it, or if I didn't do that, then this would not have happened. Don't do that at all. That is starting to justify what happened. You don't justify it. It's not your fault, right? You need to know that. I want to say that to you. Hear my voice saying that. It's not your fault, okay? You are not to blame. The next thing you need to do is to make a decision. You have to decide. Nobody can decide for you. If you are not in this situation, but you know somebody who is in this situation, they have to make a decision. You can't make it for them, right? If you are in that situation, you have to make that decision. You have to want a better future. You have to know you deserve a better future. You have to know that, all right? You have to know that. Nobody can know that for you, because it's only when you make a decision to have a better future will you be able to actually take the steps towards that better future, all right? After you've made that decision, you have to ensure that you have a support system. A major control technique implemented by the abuser is to isolate victims. So don't talk to your family, don't talk to your friends, cut you off. Listen, the person doesn't even have to know. Keep connected. Find a way to keep connected. If you have to go down to the community parlor to get something, talk with the person there. Keep connected. If you have to go to work, keep connected. Let somebody know that something is happening and you may need them. All right? The whole world doesn't have to know that you connected with some persons, but do not allow yourself to be isolated. Find a support system. Have a plan. All right? Have a plan. Please have a plan. All right? Have a plan to remain safe. Have a plan to exit if you need to. Have a secret phone with credit on it. These are some, I'm saying these things, but these things are so important. They can save a life, all right? Have car keys in a particular place that you can get it very easily, all right? Let your support system know of your plan. Have code words, signs, ways of communicating. Very, very important, all right? So if at all you find yourself in a difficult situation, you know how to come out. Remember, you are worth it. All right, remember you have value. All right, remember that. Don't give up. Don't give up. You have value. You are worth it. And remember what you are going through. It's not by chance. You may very well turn around and be one day where I'm sitting talking to somebody saying, listen, you can do it too. All right, so do not at all give up. All right, if it is someone who is in that situation, do not judge, don't justify, don't try to explain it, all right? What you want to do is to be supportive. You want to help, all right? You want to report it, please report it. If you know anything, report, report, report. Call the police, call the 800 SAVE, all right? You may save a life. We don't want to hear the stories after. Yes, you know, this really used to happen for years and I used to hear. At that point, it's not useful. All right, you can report things anonymously, do it. All right, you may very well save a life. All right, if it is you're in an abusive situation when it comes to a child, all right, any under 18s, and sometimes when it is the beard start to grow in, you know, because you're 16, or, you know, you're a little older, 17, as a, you know, you think you're an adult, but really and truly, you have the ability to be covered because you're still a child. Take the covering because you have your whole life ahead of you. All right, so don't think you can rough it. Don't think that you can just do it on your own. There are people here willing and able to support you. Get that support, all right? So you want to tell somebody, tell an adult. Tell some adult you can trust. You will know who you can trust. You'll feel it on the inside. You're going to know. All right, it may be a teacher you have to go and tell. It may be your principal. All right, it may be a parent. It may be an aunt, an uncle. Maybe someone, a coach. Tell an adult who you can trust, who will help you to get help, all right? If at all you're frightened, because a lot of times there's this fear that is instilled, all right? Don't say anything, otherwise this will happen to you. I'll do this to your parents. Listen, those are things done to cause you to be silent. You don't want to be silent, you want to speak, all right? You want to tell the authorities, and I'll give you an important number, 996. That's the Children's Authority hotline, 996. Anytime, any date, 24 hours, you call. All right, if you get access to that little phone, pick up the phone and go in a corner and call. Tell somebody something. Very, very important. All right, so 800 SAVE for domestic violence, 996 for Children's Authority. And again, don't blame yourself. Don't blame yourself. It's not you. It's not you. Get help. All right, and I told us already, if we are not victims of child abuse, we can help. We can help. Put yourself in place to help. Help the teenagers. Help the young ones. There are babies. All right? Put yourself, open up your home, open up your family. Don't just look down on them. All they want is equality of opportunity. You know, they're not necessarily looking for the hand-me-downs. You know, sometimes you see people bring clothes that they would have thrown away, they come in to give it to them and thinking they should be thankful. No, they would not be thankful for that because they want dignity. That's all they want, dignity. All right, they want to be treated the same. Just like some persons who are differently abled. They don't need you, you know, over them. How can I help? How can I help? What they want is empowerment. They want the same opportunities. It's the same thing. They don't want to be treated differently, all right, because they may look or have to function differently. It's the same thing with children who may come from an abusive background or who may live in a children's home. All they want is equality of opportunity and dignity, all right? They want love just like anybody else. So let me stop talking, all right? I can overtalk. So let me pause and take some questions. Comments, it further because there's so much that could be done. What we just need is genuine people willing to put themselves out there for someone else. Yes.
Well, Andrew, I'm so eager to hear what you have to say because I have so much to say as well. And Andrew, it's a little bit awkward because, you know, at the end of a program, you know, we say our thank yous, you know, which I'm genuinely so. We say our thank yous today, especially if we have guests. Andrew, I'm saying thank you from now because what was just shared there is priceless. What was just shared there, my wife is on the chat, is messaging me, otherwise she said, Don, you're looking like you want to cry. And it's true because, Andrew, this is, I mean, I think we should just send our love out to Safiya Noel. Safiya, we want to congratulate you for the stance that you have taken. I mean, ooh, Andrew, we have some work to do. We have some work to do. And I mean, This is what positive moments is all about. I mean, the topics are not necessarily positive, but let me tell you, I mean, we go through things to help other people get through things, and even the information that we're getting here can be so useful. And I'm just going to spark the questions. I know Andrew's just getting his questions ready, but I'm going to spark a question. I remember looking at television a couple of years ago, and there was a lady who it was physical abuse. It was on national television, and I think we all saw the incident. I don't want to talk about the incident too much, by the bar and how the guy treated the girl, the lady at the bar. And what was amazing, I think it was close to Christmas time, and they said that she spent Christmas with him. She went straight back because she did not, she refused to press charges, and she got her self-worth and her self-esteem from him. So there are many in society who think that they may be spoken rough to, but that's how love is shown. And the truth is that is not love. And I love what you said there. It's not. And speak up and speak out. So we're glad that you're speaking out, but it's enough you're not just talking the talk, you're walking the talk. And that's what is missing. So I know Andrew will have something he wants to share as well. You could add, Safiya, to this what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And even when even when you think like, because sometimes the most fearful thing or the hardest thing is to come out, for the fear of your own life, not only for your own life, for the fear of the ones around you, just out of big fear and living in fear. No one deserves to live in fear. That's not what we're put on this planet for. It's not fair on the whole. But something that Isabel said, that there are homes that provide shelters for women and children, and that persons in charge guard the location and keep it a secret. There is so much out there that I didn't know, and I think that so many people don't know, of the way to get help and the process in which to execute something that would once seem almost impossible or life-threatening. That it is possible and it does exist. And a lot of these situations, especially in our home, are not seen as maybe we don't have the right infrastructure, we don't have these things, but really and truly, regardless of where you are in the world, there is a way. Yes. You could be anywhere in the world, in my opinion. There is a way. You must act in faith. You must believe that there is a way out of this humongous challenge you are in. I don't care where you come from or what is happening to you. Even though I do care about everything that is happening to you, I want you to find a way out. I want you to find what's best for you. And I say this to everybody there, that be aware of the people that are around you and ask questions, because we now know how much more this topic is, just other than physical violence to one person or to a child. This is way more. This is financial, and this is verbal. If someone's having a tough day in work and my husband this or my wife this, listen to what they're really saying. Don't just take it off and say, oh well, I'm sorry for you, hard luck. No, be aware, because this is what I keep saying. We're put on this planet to live amongst one another, to love one another, to be here to help one another. The word self-made doesn't exist. You cannot be successful alone. It's impossible.
That's right.
So listen to the people around you, see what's going on. Yeah, I mean, of course, it's important to give clothes and give away things and help the less fortunate. What they say is what is not your gem, maybe someone else's gem. Yes, it's important to give back, and yes, secondhand clothes could go so much further. But understand, does this person really want your secondhand clothes? Does he really want that? You may be giving something to somebody, maybe you might think that this one's grateful for not accepting it. They don't want that. They want a hug. They want you to just say, they want you to acknowledge them as a human being. They could have no shirt on their back. Just acknowledge them as a human being before you give them the clothes, maybe. Not just say, hey, sorry about the situation, but hold that. It's, being human is being able to relate that everybody is a human no matter the situation they're in. And if you want to be treated in a certain way, the people that you are treating, you would want them to treat you in the same way. So really try and step out of your shoes and understand the situations that you're in. None of us are perfect, but if we able to come out of our shoes as often as possible, especially when around other humans, we will be able to really understand and love one another for really how they want to be loved in that moment.
Yeah. Interesting you said that, Andrew. A little experience, slightly off the topic. When I picked up the directorship, advancing the directorship, the director is the name for the chief executive officer, but because of the structure of the organization, they call it director, but it's really the CEO. So when I got into that position, I figured that, you know, based on the subject matter that we treated with every day, our work environment should not provide any further stress. And so I set out to improve the organizational culture so people would be happy to come to work and to deal with such matters. But one thing that I did when I met with all the teams, I stressed on and ensured that it happened in terms of persons giving respect to each other on a human level. So it didn't matter if the person was the cleaner, security, a senior manager, it really did not matter. On the human level, we were to give persons respect because that is what they deserve just for being human. That's the first level of respect. And you would not believe when we did that. I had other levels in terms of positional and all of those, professional and all of that, but everybody were to give everybody else at least the respect of being a human. And you would not believe how that transformed the organization, the work environment. I mean, everybody was a team. It doesn't matter who you were, what you did. You were part of our team and we were one. And that is important, you know, respecting people, not looking at them to determine how much respect you would give them. Not looking at how they dress, not looking at what they drive, not looking at, you know, what they do. But the fact that they're alive and they're facing you, that person deserves respect. And I think that is very, very critical, and it's missing sadly sometimes. You know, you're a person, so you deserve respect.
And yet even the child too deserves respect, because somehow in society people have this thing that respect is for an adult. No, that's not true. You respect each child and each person that you meet. And Safiya, not to take away, and Andrew as well, because we're getting some lovely comments and questions. One of them in particular who is saying that there could be a friend or a family member who's being abused and is refusing to admit it. What can somebody else do? Can you go, because the person is an adult, I think it's a fantastic question. This is an adult. Is it that you're nosy and you're getting in people's business by going in? How can you, because if you have tried to convince a person, say something, do something, and they're not doing anything, what can you still do besides prayer? You could pray for them as well too. What else you could do?
No, the thing is, sometimes we have to understand too what the person is going through. It's not that the person don't know, they very much know. It is the fear. Andrew spoke about the fear, that's one, because they have to treat with the consequences of making a decision. Two, in admitting it, it makes it more real. You know that about life. Sometimes things are swirling wrong in your head. From the time it comes out your mouth, it's like, oh my God, this just got so much more real. And they're not ready to make that real. What does it mean? How will they live after? Because we, and I'm saying we, meaning the person who's looking in from the outside, may think, if it was me, I would have never done this. I would have never gotten there. But for somebody else in this situation, their life looks very, very different. And so you have to be patient. You have to be supportive. Don't judge the person because they're not making a decision as quick as you are making a decision. You want to remain approachable so that when it is there ready to say, girl, you know, I think I had enough and I'm ready to make a decision, you are still there. You didn't write them off. You didn't get tired of them and keep frustrating them, because after a while they're going to avoid you because you keep making things difficult for them every time they talk with you. So what you want to do is be supportive. Ask them how they're going. How are you coping? Is there anything that I could do? Continue to check in, but continue to be an approachable, supportive person. They know, you know, but sometimes they're not yet ready. And that's why I said you had to make a decision. If the person doesn't make a decision, there's nothing you can really do. But what you need to do is continue to be supportive, continue to be there, so that when they are ready to make that decision, you are there to assist. And because otherwise you will push them away. If it is you continue to press and press and press. Be present, non-invasive.
If I'm hearing correctly, don't be judgmental towards the person.
No,
And then sometimes there's some comments that we make that can trigger people. Well, you should know better than that yourself. You see what happened to you, and those comments don't help whatsoever. And you touched on something earlier where you said the mother who prostituted was prostituted and then she prostituted a child. Some of these
Yeah.
things are in fact generational, and then some people
Yes.
think it is the norm. You know, it is a norm because I've seen it in my family, and I guess it is the norm. You know, daddy interferes with the children, and that's the norm. I mean, we have that in our society still. So it is not the norm. It's people to know it's not the norm, and we have to be able to stand up, you know. But again, don't be judgmental of anybody and try to be there. Andrew, we had this program about building bridges, not walls. So try and have that bridge there where the person can actually walk across and say, look, I'm ready to, I can't take anymore. I need your help to get to the next bit of help I need.
That's domestic violence, right? If it comes to child abuse, it's slightly different. When it comes to child abuse, you report it and let the professionals intervene. The parents
report. If you know of something and don't report, I just jump in. If I know that a child is being abused and I don't report, am I I'm now culpable? Is that the word? Am I?
So in the law, in the Children Act, there is something called persons in positions of trust. They're the ones that are culpable. So essentially, they're the persons who a child would normally trust. It could be teachers, it could be coaches. The list is quite extensive. People who the children would trust. If those persons are aware of the abuse and doesn't report it, they can be fined or jailed. They can be charged. All right? As a neighbor or a bystander and you don't report it, there's really no way to find you, as it were. So it's difficult to hold you culpable. But I think your conscience should find you, because the child has nowhere else. The child has, they're so vulnerable. Children depend on adults, right? And if the adults that they depend on are the ones inflicting the abuse, who will help? So domestic violence is a little different because an adult has to make a decision to come out. When it comes to child abuse, still report it. Even if the parent doesn't want to do anything, report it. Get help. Get help. And I've seen it all where parents would be very upset. I remember one parent told us, team at the time, the child, if it is the child leaves, he will not give me any money. So the child is there for the person to sleep with in order for her to get money. It's really something else. So sometimes people have reasons why they don't report it. But if you're aware, when it comes to child abuse, you report it. Domestic violence, you can report it, yes, but the adult in the situation has to make the decision to leave.
So we have a lovely question here. Can you share briefly the adoption process in Trinidad?
Okay, so I'll start off by saying, so there are, something I didn't mention, which I will take the opportunity to mention now. So adoption is a permanent arrangement, meaning that when you adopt a child, the child becomes a part of your family, as if the child was born into your family. It's permanent, almost irreversible, right? But there are other forms. So foster care is a form, all right, where that's temporary care. You have fit persons, where the court will deem you a fit person to care for a child, guardian. You have so many other ways besides adoption, all right? So whichever way you can, get involved, all right? Talk to the Children's Authority, make yourself available, sign up, go through the process and make yourself available. So in terms of adoption, there are two types of adoption, open adoption and closed adoption. An open adoption is where everybody's aware of each other. So for example, if it is, I am giving up my child for adoption to a friend, the two sets of parties know each other. It's open, all the information is open. We go to the Children's Authority take us through the process. And I'm saying it from that standpoint because the Children's Authority is the only agency that has the legal ambit to arrange adoptions. If you arrange an adoption outside of Children's Authority, you will be charged, all right? So if it is you want to adopt a child, you have to go to the Children's Authority. But let's just say, I mean, persons, many times a child, somebody gets pregnant, they have agreed that they cannot care for the child, they know a family they want to care for their child, everybody goes on to the Children's Authority, they will give them necessary forms, they take them through the process, they help them to go to the court, and then they get their adoption certificate. A closed adoption is when nobody knows each other. So somebody would come to their Children's Authority and say, listen, I am willing to adopt a child. When you say that, they give you a form to fill out. You have to indicate a whole lot of biodata. You have to go through a psychological assessment, medical assessment, financial assessment, but also they ask you, what is your preference? you know, what age of child you want, gender, ethnicity, religious background, all of that. And that is what they use to do the matching process. So after you've been screened, you're approved, okay, yeah, your prospective adopters, you're looking fine. They are now looking for a child to match what you asked for. So the thing is, there are not many babies available for adoption right now. A lot of children that can be made available for adoption are older children. Why are there not many babies? Because truth be told, a lot of people keep their children or they give them to family members. You know, so granny take care of the baby or auntie take care of the baby. You know, they don't necessarily bring the baby up for adoption, though there are some, but they're not many. A lot of the children that you see in children's homes that people think they're waiting to be adopted, they're not there waiting to be adopted. Many of them have parents, just parents that can't care for them. So they are not available to be adopted, though there are some. But a lot of times I always recommend to people, if you increase that age limit of children that you're willing to care for, and beyond baby, to a little older, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, your process moves a little faster because there are more children in those older categories than, you know, if you find a newborn baby to complete your family. And I can tell you from Children's Authority standpoint, even though I'm no longer there, also from the UN standpoint, adoption is not an opportunity for somebody else to complete their family. Adoption is an option for a child. So we are looking for the child.
Could you say that again? That is powerful. That is powerful. That's wow.
Yeah, so many times people see adoption. Yes, people see adoption as an opportunity to complete their family. They're looking for a child to complete their family. But really, from our standpoint, we are looking for the best family for the child. It's not the next way around. And so many times people are disappointed. I can take care of the child. Why didn't I get a child? It's not about you necessarily. It is about finding the best option for that child. All right. Yeah, but so any questions? I mean, go to the Children's Authority. They have tons of information. They have staff that are willing to help you with the adoption process. Always looking for people to adopt children. But I can tell you this, there are many persons on the list, but a lot of them are babies. There's only so many babies available, right? And we also encourage persons, if at all, you know, you are considering not continuing to care for your child, talk to the Children's Authority. Don't just make the decision. Don't leave the child somewhere. Don't just give the child to anybody because you really don't know who you're giving the child to. You see somebody, you really don't know them, all right? Talk to the professionals, let them help you, let them guide you and you know, help you and the child. Very, very important. I'll give this last story. So I know time is going. Process. I happen to be involved in that process, which is very rare, you know, at my level. But what happened is that we were missing an adoption man, and I had to kind of fill in to give direction to the department. And there was this particular child that was coming up for adoption, and she was in a children's home. When we was processing the adoption, we had to look to see if we had no information on her bio father. So we started to, you know, send out information, put it in the newspapers, and this man appeared. Thought his child had died. That is what the mother told him. The child died. The child was 8 years old. That man wept to know that his child was alive. Now what happened now? That adoption process halted. You can't process the adoption again because now the man has to at least start to understand and know whether he wants to have the child in his life or not. And the child deserves that as well. Now some people may say, but he coming out from nowhere, the child don't even know him. But no, that is the child's right to their family of origin. And those are some of the things that sometimes put a spoke in the wheel for adoptions. It's fantastic no matter which side you look at it. I mean, for the child, I'm always happy. I'm not a parent in the child's life. So it's a complicated process. Go to the Children's Authority. They will give you all the information and guide you through properly.
Yeah, so, Safiya, and I mean, that's a fantastic answer because you bring in a lot of understanding, you know, and with the understanding, then better decisions could be made. And I'm seeing here from someone who we have on, there's a fantastic question which says, I know of a mother, my relative, that is being abused, but she stays for the sake of love and financial support, which is her choice. However, there are 2 children involved and they are emotionally affected. What should I do? I know Nicola has a question too, but I think we should first answer this question. It's okay that we go a little bit over because this is a topic You can't really stop
Yeah.
discussing, you know. If we stop discussing
Yeah.
it, it remains in society. So let's, you
Yeah.
know, if you could answer that first.
Yeah, so what I would recommend in that situation, I think you should report it, because I would tell you this. You see, emotional abuse and psychological abuse, the wounds are invisible, but it's far deeper and and more tragic than some of the other abuses we can see. That thing carries on very, very long. So sometimes people stay for the children, but there is an also side where you need to leave for the children. Because you stay for the children because they remain in a dysfunctional environment. So if the person is staying for security and because of finances, and the children are the ones having to pay that expense, that's what the children are the ones who pay, you should report children's authority, because that is a form of abuse, you know. And she needs to get help. She needs to be empowered, you know. Talk to the professionals who can help empower her to see that she deserves better. She's more than some pennies, and it could be a lot of money, you know. But what is it worth? What is it worth?
Yeah.
You know, when it is you come out and empower yourself, you might recognize how much more you can do, how much more you can make, because now you have your sanity intact and you can do so many things. You know?
So Sophia,
Very,
Sophia
very
is
important.
interesting because Sophia, you can't put a price on dignity. And I know you use that word very early in the discussion. You can't put a price on someone's dignity. And for those who don't understand the process, many people think that if I come out and I say something and I'm called to be a witness, I don't have any protection, because witness protection doesn't really exist as we see it on television, that is here in Trinidad and Tobago. So if someone comes out, will they be called to be a witness? Because you're the one saying, for example, that these two children, you're noticing they're being abused. Would you be called to be a witness, or could you do this from a distance?
Right. So in making a report, you can make a report anonymously. All right.
Okay.
You don't need to identify yourself to make a report when you're reporting to the Children's Authority. You can do it anonymously. All right. What you really want, you want the authorities to be aware that these children are in danger. They will go in there, investigate, determine to the extent of the danger, the reality of the danger, and then they're going to take it from there. You don't have to continue with them throughout the process, you know? So because the thing with reporting to Children's Authority, you just need to have a suspicion of abuse, you know? It doesn't have to be real. Once you think, once you suspect, that's sufficient. They are the ones by law to investigate and determine if it's real or not. So that's all you have to do, and you can do it anonymously. But don't leave it to chance. Don't leave it to chance.
Wow, fantastic. And we have a wonderful question from Nicola. Nicola says, would you advise someone to get the history of the child before they adopt one, such as psychological and innate issues that may be present in the child?
Right, but through the adoption process, you get all of that. It's an open book. It's very important that you understand everything to do with the child, so you will get that as part of the adoption process. There's a part of the process where, when it is we find the right family for the child, there are actually 3 options for the child. So family 1, family 2, family 3. When family 1 is approached, they are given the information about the child. You then say, listen, yes, I really want to care for the child. I say, well, you know what? I really wasn't planning to deal with a child like that. I'll pass. That's fine. That's your right. So once you get that information, you say, yes, I still want to deal with this child. You know, we had somebody who brought back a child because they find the child was cocky-eyed. You know, they didn't plan for cocky-eyed. We've seen all kinds of things. Right? That's your right. It's not nice, but that's your right. Don't want the child to go into an environment and the child is ill-treated. All right, to bring the child back, we're going to find a right family for the child. And once you have all that information, what we call interaction sessions, so you get the opportunity to interact with the child in an observed environment. We kind of see how you feel about it. We kind of observe the child. If the child is at an age where the child can speak, we then have a session after with the child to find out how did you feel? What are your thoughts? What do you think about it? We do a few of those sessions. Once all those sessions go well, we then have what we call a probationary period, where the child goes to live with you for 6 months. Again, check in, observed, unannounced, announced, different things. We do the checks on the child. And if all of that goes well, then we move to the stage of actually finalizing the adoption. So you get all the information, you get to feel the child out, the child gets to feel you out, because again, it's a permanent arrangement. Just like somebody can't come in your home and just rip your child away from you if there's nothing wrong. It's the same thing with adoption. Once it's finalized, nobody can come and rip that child away from you. That's your child.
And then
I want to ask a very obvious question. Oh, sorry, Andrew. No.
Yeah, from
I'm
very
not your question. I'll ask that because I have a very obvious question.
well, you might am I changing topic? You wanna go ahead?
No, it's just Andrew. I think in the country, do we have pedophiles here? Do we have people that prey on children? And I asked that, and I asked that question because sometimes Andrew and I we visit schools, and when we say those things, there are children who go in Trinidad. I only see that on television. And we get, Andrew and I have had the pleasure of visiting so many schools, and we get so many, because the kids come and tell you, all right? So I just prefer if you could say, I don't want to say just Andrew and Don said,
Yeah, I will tell you this. There was a piece of there was a little survey that the Children's Authority did some years ago, taking the temperature gauge in the country about the awareness about child abuse. And when we did one specifically for children, and a lot of them were not even aware of what child abuse is, what it looks like, that it existed. So they're not even able to, if it's a pedophile, because they don't know what child abuse looks like, right? So there was a lot of education. So we do a lot of education. And so the aim is to do that survey sometime later, a few years down the road, and hopefully those markers should shift upward, because I'm more aware. But yes, I mean, we have seen, I don't want to be too dark, but I've seen a whole lot of cases with very, very young children, 0 to 1 year olds, all the way up to 17-year-olds sexually abused. All right, there are pedophiles. There's some of them that are serial in nature. And let me tell you this, the police service, I know they have all these things going on with police service, but I can tell you the Child Protection Unit, when I was there, the Children's Authority, that's the arm of the police that works with the Children's Authority, they are fantastic. They take their jobs very, and they're going in there to really get a hold of the perpetrators and to get the evidence to push this thing forward. So I always, tip my hat to these wonderful officers, and I continue to hear the great work that they do. So I have to say that to the Children's Authority, we are the social investigators, a lot of the psychological testing, but the police did the criminal investigation where pedophiles will fall, because that's a particular crime. And the police were there with us toe to toe. If it is we have to arrange stings and whatever we have to do, they're there with us. And they did a fantastic job, really loved and cared for our children and wanted the best for them.
Amazing. So we have a question here. Can persons adopt children from abroad?
So let me just clarify. Is it that non-nationals adopting local children or local adopting children from abroad? Well, both can happen.
Well, we can answer both, actually.
Yes. Yes. So if it's non-nationals wanting to adopt a child locally, they have to subject themselves to our local laws, all right? So they again have to apply to the Children's Authority of Trinidad and Tobago, go through the process. It's the same thing, it's just that your nationality is not. So local, so somebody popped up, their locals living abroad. Yes, so you still have to go to the Children's Authority. If it was locals wanting to adopt a child abroad, they would have to subject themselves to the laws of that country where the child is from. So once it's a Trinidad and Tobago child, they have to subject themselves to our laws. And so then they would have to go to the Children's Authority. So if at all any persons living abroad interested in adopting, they have to talk to the Children's Authority. People adopt their own children from the standpoint of, so for example, you get married and you have the child's step-parent want to adopt the child. The two can come together and adopt the child, because the child wants to take the name of the step-parent and all of that. Those things happen. So adoption is not only strangers, you can adopt your niece, things like that, especially if it is you want to leave fortunes and inheritances and those kinds of things. You do that so that legally it's in place, somebody can challenge it. Those things happen too. Yeah.
And, Safiya, this is Positive Moments with Andrew and Don. And based on your experience, we still want to leave people with a sense of hope. And our main message is that there's always hope. As dark as it is, and I know you shared some of the circumstances with us, as dark as it is in Trinidad and Tobago, and we know elsewhere around the world, there is still hope. And I think people like yourself are more needed. In terms of your sharing and giving this information, that people can actually say, hey, there is help available, and I'm not leaving this situation. I'm not leaving this situation you know. So I'm so glad that there's help and certainly forums like Positive Moments with Andrew and Don. We are so glad to have you on. And I think those two numbers you gave earlier, we are really, Andrew, we are blessed, Andrew. Let me tell you, this is God ordained, because this topic came up very early when we were doing the webinars. And people say, but all that's going on in this COVID time and all these families forced to be together, the abuse, as we see the statistics and we hear, has actually gone up. So we're thankful that you've gone a step further. You've adopted and you've got your feet wet. You walk the talk. But you're certainly encouraging Andrew and myself. Andrew, there's more we have to do for children. You know, the platforms that we allowed, there's more that we can do. So you have two people here that are going to be learning a lot from you, you know, here, and I'm going to follow up with you to find out more about what can we do with any platforms that we have to make a difference for young people and others.
Yeah. And I would say this, you know, with my young guy, you know, I would always say my two boys, right? I would say this two last things. It wasn't an adoption. It's what we call a fit person order. So I didn't even have to go through the process of adoption. What it was the court doing their assessment on me and determining, you know what, I am a fit person to care for this child. So he has his parents. He's not adopted, but he was in my care, you know, and that still allowed me to provide care for him without going through the adoption process, because sometimes teenagers really need support over that threshold. Really, that's what they need. Younger children are a little bit different. And the other thing is, I want to raise a topic that I want us to be so open, because the child who I adopted, he's of East Indian descent. It was so interesting. So my bio son, he's of African descent. So when we all go out as a family, and I say, these are my boys, people are like, these are your boys, this is so strange, right? And the reason why I'm saying that is because sometimes we put limits on things. I don't want us to put limits on things. Children, DV victims, they come in all shapes, sizes, colors, backgrounds. The need is the same. Love. The need is the same. Support. All right, so don't qualify, don't limit, don't do anything like that. Just be open, be present, be willing, and you would make that difference. You would make that difference.
Yeah, but I know I'm fast watching the time going, and someone just asked a quick question here. How can I get a social worker assigned to a family or counselor? Can they do that through the Children's Authority? Can they refer the situation to the Children's Authority?
So you see, we get to the point of counseling, and that is often a mistake that we make. We reach the point of thinking we need counseling without really understanding what the situation is. So for example, you know, sometimes you may need to, if it is you, let's think about it physically. Something is happening, you may need to go to the emergency room, get stabilized first, and then they put you on medication. So sometimes we need to let somebody diagnose what the situation is, because you may need something else before counseling kicks in, right? So depending on what the situation is, again, if it's domestic violence, call the 800-SAFE. If it's a child abuse, call 996, because you may be saying counseling, but counseling may be the tail end. There may be something else that needs to happen first for the counseling to even be effective. All right, people may need to change locations. There may need to be a particular assessment done to even guide the counsel as to what may be needed. But there are crisis counseling situations, all right? Children's Authority don't necessarily provide counseling per se. They more refer it out. Children's Authority investigates, assess, and determine what is the best placement for the child and the needs of the child. So I know there's the National Family Services arm of the Ministry of Social Development. They provide counseling, you know, so that's certainly an area that you can reach out to. And then you have, like the rape crisis, I know they provide counseling as well, without charge. And then if it is you have the means where it is you can pay for it, there are a number of professionals that you can reach out to for the crisis counseling, all right? There's so many places that provides pro bono, so somebody put there with Families in Action, provide counseling. I don't know. I can't say off the top of my head. Victim and witness, yes, they are part of the police service. They provide counseling as well. So depending on the severity of the situation, you may get Children's Authority to do it, but they will certainly investigate and assess first. They're not going to jump straight into counseling. You know, they want to know what happened. They want to know the history. They want to diagnose, and then they're going to, you know, determine the right way forward. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
But
are
Sophia, I'm
so much
listening.
information. Wow.
Information, Andrew, Andrew, what we got here again, let me tell you, we feel so blessed. Andrew and I feel so blessed, Sophia, that you'd actually take your time and actually share this information. Sophia, is it possible you can put your email address and type it to everyone so if they have additional things they
Certainly.
want to ask? Is it possible? So folks, can
Certainly.
we do that? Sophia, and I had no idea. I asked her, and I knew in fact that she would say yes immediately. So certainly she's going to type her email address because I'm looking at the time and we want to be respectful of the time and so. But folks, this has really been, Andrew, I think, wow. And I know each one is important, but this probably is one of the more important webinars that we have done and attempted to bring. And that is what Positive Moments is all about. Yes, we have to get to walk the talk, as Sophia would tell us. We have to walk the talk. So it's Positive Moments. It's not all about the laughing and the joking and whatever. We understand we operate in a society, and there is in the society, but we are doing our part. And certainly in Sophia being here with us this evening, she's doing her part in helping us do our part. So that we will be eternally grateful for. Andrew, I don't know if you want to share, because I know we have to close off.
I want to share something that has really inspired me throughout this conversation. The thing that has really struck me is, I don't know how long you've been in this, in this. I don't know how long that's been part of your life, but what you have shared here today is a wealth of knowledge that I can tell you I definitely didn't know, and you have committed yourself to a very, very, very challenging. A lot of people say, well, they want to become big, successful businessmen and women, and they want to become doctors and they want to become lawyers. Yeah, there's a pathway to doing that, and that takes many years to achieve. But what you have achieved here, people, in my opinion, do not realize that the psychological effects and the commitment it takes to go into your field is remarkable. And the information you shared here today, I mean, I would call you lawyer, doctor, pilot, everything in one. The amount of knowledge that you brought here today, because this is life changing. The Lord is telling me that someone's life is going to be saved after this, and they are gonna spread this knowledge near and far, so that we have young boys and girls in here too that really now have an understanding of what to look out for as they grow, and we have also elders in here to also know how to help the young ones and how to help the older ones too. So I just want to thank you so much for not only for joining us is amazing, but for what you have done all these years of helping people and fighting for the human race to have equality, to have a chance of a home, have a chance of feeling that I have purpose. This is humongous, and people like yourself and all the people who work in the Children's Authority, I mean, who do these kinds of jobs around the world is beyond remarkable, and I am inspired to continue helping people in avenues that I didn't think I can, and to really now send people different directions on where to find the help. So thank you very, very much, Sophia.
Oh my God, you guys are so welcome. And people are always shocked when I say to them, because I heard Andrew alluding to it, I am not a social worker or psychologist. I just have a real love for persons, and I have been that way since before. I am a profession and a strategist. I'm an organizational leader. That's who I am. That's what I do. I build businesses. I've always loved people, so it's something I've always done alongside my career for as long as I could remember. And so you don't even have to be in the profession to make a difference. You just have to have a heart, a genuine heart.
You see that? Wow. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah. Wow. Sophia, let me just say again, you don't have to be in the profession. And all three of us, we have a similar profession, and that is genuinely loving people. And each of us have our part to play. And I want to tell you, somebody just messaged me, sent me a WhatsApp message to say they are aware of your adoption, of your looking after that child. And they say they know the child, and the child is fantastic. The young man is fantastic. So, Andrew, that is just testimony that we've actually gotten. I mean, this is a golden, God-ordained person who has been on this, who can walk the talk. And we want to thank you again, Safiya. May God bless you. And you continue to inspire others on this journey and helping each of us realize that we have dignity and that we have a special place in this world. Okay, so I know that people got value here. This is, I am like, wowie. Positive moments with Andrew and Don. We're going to come again with another topic. Actually, we're back on Saturday, the 4th of July, 5:30 p.m. And the topic is the entrepreneur in us with Bevon Joseph, a US-based trainee. So the entrepreneur in us, the topics are shifting and changing. And Andrew, who knows, maybe we'll have some good news for them in positive moments at another point in time. But for now, we want to thank you all for being here. This is Positive Moments with Andrew and Don. Again, we thank, and Andrew, I say in Dr. Safiya Noel. I
receive it.
I say that. Yeah, right?
I receive that.
Thank you again,
Yes,
Doctor.
yes.
Because you're a doctor of love. You certainly bring that love and a qualified and with the experience. You certainly bring that. Nobody can ever challenge you for that. So thank you, Dr. Safiya Noel, for the information and for spending this time with us. This is going to be shared on YouTube. All of the webinars are on Positive Moments with Andrew and Don. And this is going to go to a lot more people than we can ever even imagine. Folks, look out for it on YouTube in an hour or two. Look out for the webinars. Please do share. And we love you all. So this is Andrew, Don, and Safiya. Okay, part of our team. Andrew, we have a wonderful team. We have a wonderful, resourceful team, Andrew. And Andrew always says to Safiya, he's an Olympic sailor. And Andrew always says there isn't enough room in the boat for all the entire team. The boat, if that little boat can't hold the entire team. But certainly we have you in our hearts. And we again thank you and say God bless you. Not just to you, but to all those who asked questions and all those who participated in webinar number 14, Positive Moments with Andrew and Don. God bless every single one of you. Thank you.
God bless.
Thank you.
Have a blessed night.
Bye-bye from us.
Privilege.
Bye-bye
Take care,
and thank
guys.
you again.
Bye-bye. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.